Yeah, great house.
Wow, this is a really thick. This is just pizza that was this big.
I've lost my dexterity in my right hand. I should have won. It's such a weak.
What do they call meetings? Well, you drive, I'm just going along for the ride. I'm gonna sit that like he's.
Wait a minute.
I'm not. I got nothing.
There it goes.
Here we go.
See you
Anytime's ready, we're live now.
Okay, I'm going to call the Historical Preservation Commission meeting, special call meeting to order. First thing we have is the approval of the February 6, 2025 minutes. Do you have anybody that would like to approve them?
I'll approve the minutes.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, we have no old business. However, we do have 5 new business in order. So we're going to start with the very first one, which is a request for certification of appropriateness on 306 Washington Avenue. Michael McRaney, approval for secondary living unit on the existing slab. Okay?
Hello, I'm going to present this
Oh,
time.
good.
Y'all just bear with me. I do have a little bit of a cough, so just bear with me. The property that we're looking at is 306 Washington Avenue, owned by Michael McRaney. They already had an existing secondary structure there. If I'm not mistaken, it's no longer there due to just old age and things like that. And I think a storm came, if I'm not mistaken, and kind of put the final nail in the coffin, if you want to say, and didn't help. But they want to use hardy board and white paint so it matches the existing shed that is right next to it. Accessory dwellings are allowed in R1 zoning, so this wouldn't be out of the normal for it to be there. And yeah.
And the secondary dwelling, is it going to be another shed or?
No, it's going to be a living.
A living.
I'm
Is
sorry,
that-
a
these are the
living, yes, ma'am, I'm
pictures?
sorry.
These are the pictures right here of,
Yes, that's what it's going to look like. Very much like the shed that's, the existing shed that's there.
I saw that.
He wanted to keep it in line with that.
basically replacing what was there, only with better.
Yes, ma'am.
So what was there was a living
Yes, ma'am.
quarters also.
Yes, ma'am. Like I said, I think just over time it,
Got tired.
yes, and then he said a storm came, I think, and that was kind of the last where it just kind of fell over, he said, so.
Do you have anything to present?
I did want to,
You get to come over here.
I just, Mr. McCraney got an email this morning asking for $5,000 from you guys. I just wanted to make you guys aware of it. Some kind of scam, like, said not to come to this meeting tonight.
Can we see that?
I went to the building department this morning and they said, yeah, it's a scam, so.
Yeah, I got the same, I got a similar email. I called the planning office and I guess about a month ago, my wife said that via Facebook, the city had notified folks that there were false claims going out.
Well, they must have hacked into our system somehow, because how else would they
It
know?
seems
Yeah,
like
just been- I
when we
did get
put
one
the
asking
agenda
for
out,
that.
that's where they get the information from.
Yeah, it looks very official.
And,
Wow, they took the city logo.
Yeah.
I mean, unfortunately, that's on the city's website. You can-
Right.
Yeah, of course.
More than a screenshot of you got it.
Since it did go out with should it not be referred to the city attorney?
Yeah. Okay. Do you mind if I keep this?
No, man.
Okay, thank you. Well, we're not gonna ask for your $5,000.
We don't need your 5,000 tonight anyway.
I mean, if you wanna donate it to me, I'm more than happy to.
Most of us know what you have in store.
Okay, so I guess that what we have before the board right now is they would like to reestablish the pre-existing dwelling that was, that had fallen apart due to a storm and otherwise, overall needing to come down. And we are now looking at them rebuilding on the same, you're gonna build on the same existing slab? Okay.
Yes.
So it's gonna be the same size?
Reinforced slab.
Got it. So does anybody have any questions or further concerns? Okay. Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the certificate of appropriateness to rebuild the accessory building at 306 Washington Avenue to replace the one that.
I'll
second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? You're gonna have to attend the, if you want, you do not have to be there. We've approved it, however, it goes before the Board of Aldermen. If you wanna be there, just in case you have any questions or anything, otherwise,
That's the 3rd of June.
when's the next board meeting?
Right, yeah, it'll be the first one in June, so
Okay,
yeah, it'll be
yeah.
3rd of June. And
June 3rd.
the item, they're typically on the consent agenda, so they're approved with a lot of other items. So there's really, unless someone calls it out, there's typically no discussion about the item.
Gotcha.
Thank you so much. Okay, so we now are moving on to our second, and it's a request for certification of appropriateness on 208 Washington Avenue. It's an approval to demolish an existing house. The house is on 208 Washington Avenue.
You ready? Okay. Like you said, it's at 208 Washington Avenue. It's in the old Ocean Springs Historic District. Gaston Bordas is the owner and also the applicant. They are asking to demolish the existing house that is there due to extensive termite damage and excessive moisture and mold. It is in an R1 resident zone, R1, which is low density single family. He does have plans to build, but that's not what we're here for. So, but there are what he proposes to kind of do in here, but we're just mostly wanting the house demoed at this time. We're not really going for the rebuild of it. There is a termite inspection on there, as well as a photo, I guess, of where the floor has collapsed due to the extensive damage.
Is this house not occupied? For how long?
I bought it in March.
And
Okay.
it's on piers?
It's on piers
Is that where the damage is in the,
underneath.
If you have any other questions, or would you like Mr. Borges to?
Just a little background. When I came to Ocean Springs 40 years ago, my first secretary was Mary Hollom. Mary and Rick Hollom owned that property. They both since passed. Their daughter has worked for me for almost 40 years. She had two daughters. Sturgill was the oldest daughter, and she and her husband took over the house when Mary and Rick Hollom passed. They decided it was time to go. And so I was contacted to see if I had any interest in it because I'd always liked that property. And so I purchased the property from them. Once we got in there, I mean, it had been pretty rough. It's not a very attractive house if you pass on the street. It's yellow and brown. But Rick and Mary like yellow and brown. That was their color, so they had that color. If you look at the termite report that I submitted, it shows excessive damage and moisture completely under the house. There's a couple of rooms where the floor has just completely fallen in. We put boards in there to stop the animals from getting into the home. The garage, I've got some pictures. There's a tree that has been upon it for years. It's just kind of in deplorable condition. The ceiling caving in several places. Water leaks and whatnot. And probably more importantly, after I acquired the property, I went through 10 different companies to insure it, and nobody will insure it due to the condition of the home. With storm season coming, I don't want to have a structure that I've got that much money in, not insured. I did have a letter from the insurance company, I don't know if my secretary put it in the file, but I can certainly give it to you. It's a list of 10 companies that rejected me insurance on the property. I didn't take it lightly. I worked with an architect out of Louisiana to come up with a plan. Dr. Leak owns the property to the north of me, and the former mayor, Moran, owns the property to the south of me. And if you look at the plans that I had prepared, it kind of matches those. Those two houses have windows, French doors on the front, porches, and my intent, if I can get this accomplished, is to build a home very, very similar to those with a very, very old look to it. It's kind of like an old New Orleans style. But without the ability to remove it, I don't know what to do with it, because I can't get it insured. I can't live in it because it's just in deplorable condition. And so I'm seeking the permission to tear it down and rebuild something that's more appealing and beneficial to the city and kind of go along with everything on the street. Here's the, I have it here, I'm sorry, I found it. This is a letter from the insurance company to show what I had 10 different companies reject me.
I was gonna say is that through Gortman? Yeah.
I've tried everybody, I've tried State Farm, I've tried Progressive, I've tried Allstate, I've tried everybody that Mr. Gortman could find.
Yeah, if Stan can't find somebody, nobody's gonna find
They
them.
can't.
Yeah. Self-insurance, so I know that they've not touched
He
it. So,
tried, he worked hard.
yeah.
He even came to the city to look up information right now.
He's good like that. It's a shame, but
I have a very hard time tearing down an 113-year-old home. It's difficult for me. So there was no attempt of seeing if you could restore the home in any way.
is it structural, meaning the walls are affected, or is it just the flooring?
It's the flooring, where all the moisture's at.
And that can't be rebuilt
It's the
in,
flooring. I don't know, I guess we can tear it completely down in the sides of it and try to go from there. The expense is gonna be more. The contractor says it's gonna be more to try to do something like that than just build a house.
Because I know like my house
That's true.
had been sitting there since 2000, it had been sitting there since Katrina, and we gutted it all the way to the studs and down to the flooring and everything and completely redid it.
Well, I had the oldest house in town on Jackson
Mhm.
at 520. And that one was in bad condition, it wasn't this bad.
Yeah.
Has there been any attempt at assessing the quality of the frame underneath the house?
Yeah, the contractor looked at it, I mean, it's got to be all redone. It's completely eaten up with old
Frame.
termite damage,
The frame itself is eaten up as
the
well.
bottom.
So you purchased the house in March. How long was it sitting vacant before you purchased it?
I think only about a month or two.
Really?
They were kind of living up in there.
Wow. Okay.
I will say this, he has people rights, but the owner developed some lung issues.
Okay.
One question, like you said, when you build a new house, there's all kinds of interesting drawings in here for, how close do you plan to come to the original appearance of the house that is up for demolish?
To the current house? My plan is to make it look like the property to the north and to the south.
so it's not going to look like that at all.
It's not gonna look like that. I did have an alternate plan that would make it look like that. If I can find it on the phone. But it would look like that. It would have a door here, a porch there, kind of like this one looks. We did have an alternate plan to do something like that. But I thought getting it to look like Dr. Lee's house and Mayor Moran's house, to go along with that street, kind of every house on the street down has that either doors or windows on the front porch.
I mean, the house is repairable, though. I mean, it'd be a significant expense, I understand that, but it is repairable. And it's a contributing R1 in that, for the historic district, that house is a strong contributor to the character and the nature of why that area is historical. And I understand your purposes, and I don't want to be difficult, but I'm just, like Bonnie, to tear that house down and build, you have a beautiful plan. The house that you want to put there is a beautiful home, but it is a complete different rendering of what's been there. And I think one of the purposes of as a committee is to try to keep Ocean Springs, the historical areas, as true to their nature as what they are, and not completely change them. And this would be a complete change, even though it was a beautiful home. I'm not that, but to me, in my opinion, if the house is repairable due to even though it's an expense, that's a hurdle for me unless I get more information if the house is structurally not sound, where it's just not, the effort is not there. I just need some more. It would help if I had more information other than.
Yeah, see, to me, you have a contractor that says it's not, but a contractor's trying to sell their business.
Right.
A structural engineer, that's somebody who's not going to benefit from whether it passes or fails. Maybe that's a route that.
And I've driven by the property. I didn't go on the property. I just drove by in front and walked in front of it and looked. The roof looks relatively new. It doesn't mean I don't know how old it is, but it's not. The roof is actually in pretty good shape from what I can see.
According to the disclosure statement, when I bought it, it was changed after Katrina.
Oh, yeah. So, but I mean, from the outside, the house doesn't look that bad, but from the inside, which I have not seen myself, the picture you gave with the floor looks like they tried some kind of repair on that.
We put that there to keep the
Yeah, keep the things out of it.
Yeah, the raccoons.
Mr. Bordeaux, didn't you come before us before on another issue?
520 Jackson,
Okay, so it was a different house.
different house.
Okay.
We just have so few historical homes. I have a very difficult time with this. I agree with,
Structurally, if I went through the expense of all that, could it be moved, the house moved?
If the house can be moved, then the house can be
That's what I'm
rebuilt.
saying. I don't think the house can be moved, it's gonna
Yeah,
fall
if
apart.
Right.
If it's in that condition, I wouldn't even try to do anything like that.
Did you get a structural engineer in there to commit to the fact that it cannot
They don't do it
be
for free.
fixed? No,
Right,
they
right.
don't. Uh-huh.
I can't get it insured.
Yeah.
Most people don't even wanna come on the property.
And your contractor told you it was gonna cost you more to repair versus
Just build a new one.
to build a new house?
I can vouch for that.
A lot more.
I think that's true of most of the properties that we try to save here.
Of course, I mean, that's, contractors
Yeah,
like to be in business.
it's a matter of another day. I tend to wonder if,
I'm sorry?
The house on the corner of Dewey and Calhoun that is being renovated. with-
Seven Gables?
Oh, yeah,
Yeah, so what was the state of that house?
it was in pretty poor condition.
They had to
Yeah.
replace
They
the whole
replaced the whole-
underpinning of the
yeah.
home, yeah. Termite, same
Yeah.
issue.
And the
The
one
house was
on
almost about
Jackson-
ready to collapse.
On Jackson was the same thing.
Yeah.
You couldn't, literally, I was the realtor that sold him the house. I had recused myself from the meeting, but when I showed him that house, we had to walk on a plank
Right.
through it.
Some parts of this one, you couldn't walk on the
I was gonna say, he walked on the plank, I stayed
What about the one down,
outside.
on the beach right here, that they tore down recently?
I don't know which one that is.
It's off of, it's around Dr. Corder's house.
Are you talking about the Cox's house?
street it was?
At, the one on Front Beach, the Cox's house? That house was built in the 70s.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure if is that in a historical district though?
That's
No.
not historic district.
It didn't come before us, so.
Yeah, that's
I was
what
gonna say, it's not ringing any bells, but I don't come
Just want to kind of stick to this subject that's in front of us, and we can talk about houses all over town, but I really want to talk about where we are here. Because I want to, work with you as best we can, but you have to understand what our purpose is here too. And I just need some more information. I just don't feel like I have enough to give a yes or a no. I just would like to see more information.
Yeah, I concur, and honestly, at this point, I'm tending to recommend a denial until we can get at least an engineering study in here that says whether the basic bones of the house are worth restoring, because it is such an important part of that neighborhood. And I understand completely you're wanting to demolish it and put up this very nice other residence. That's a normal thing to want to do, but
the fact that it'll be cohesive with the other houses. Our original homes were not built that way. Our
Right.
neighborhoods were not built to be cohesive. Each one had its own individuality, and that's kind of the integrity we're trying to.
is there any way that we can table this decision until
Maybe
we
get
get
Drew
an
Seekers
engineering
out there?
study and have someone, a contractor look at it and say, okay, if we take this thing down to the frame, it's salvageable, and then rebuild it from that point on?
And I would say not a contractor, because a contractor is somebody that's gonna benefit from failing the house, because they're gonna make money off of you. But if you get a structural engineer, like a Drew Seegers or somebody like that, who benefits nothing, he just goes in, he just does the math.
Yeah,
Whether the house
that's
is
kind of where I
livable.
am. I don't want to put you in any kind of position. I hate that.
Yeah, I do
It's
too.
not allowing you to just do this because I understand. But being in the position I am in and what I've been asked to do here, I feel like we need more information, because if anybody comes back, I want to know that we have
Done our due
done
diligence.
everything we could to
Our due
maintain
diligence.
the historical home.
Yeah, in this neighborhood, this particular
Yes.
block in this particular neighborhood
Strong.
is so strong in historic background. It is. Bonnie, can we table this
Yes.
until we get an
Yes.
additional study?
That makes this. So there's 3 different outbuildings on that property. There's a garage, a shed behind it, and a shed behind that. You wouldn't walk in it today. You wouldn't even walk in them, because you'd be scared it'd fall on you. Can we tear those down?
With a separate request for
Yeah.
demolition.
Yeah,
yes.
That's not on
Yeah, we need to see
You gotta
the,
file another one and wait for another meeting?
yeah, I'm sorry.
It's the house itself
Yeah.
that has such significance in that particular block of that particular neighborhood. And
Yeah, that's our showcase.
it really is.
It really is.
And without that, especially being on Jackson, it is so sensitive and so central, and we have lost so many great residences in that area anyway.
I concur.
Yeah, I think
I'd
we
just
need
like
to
to have
table
more
it.
information.
I think we table it, and if we can get the structural engineer to look at it and let us know, and go from there.
We're gonna get the structural engineer.
Yes, sir.
And then definitely file if you think those other buildings are gone,
Yeah,
like
file
that,
with that.
like the last one we just voted on, then file that now so that you can at least get that cleared out of the way.
Does this require a motion?
Yes. Who wants to make the motion?
I don't know how to say it.
I'll make a motion that we temporarily deny this COA to demolish the existing house and table it for more information of a technical source, so that we can.
Structural engineer?
Structural engineer for 208.
We can make a much better judgment on this. And believe me, we're not trying to be a pain.
No.
I hate to tell anybody what they can do or not do with their property, but this particular house in this particular block isn't. So, if you can get that information from me, then we'll be able to intelligently move on. If there's not a board, if there's not a frame in there, salvaging, that's one thing. That can be. But, the house can be saved, even if it has to be torn back down to the bare frame. If that's solid, then, you know, we've got houses all over this town that have been taken to that stage and rebuilt completely, so, and believe it or not, you would probably be far happier with the end product if you did that.
Do I have a second on this motion?
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 All those opposed?
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Sorry.
Appreciate your time.
Okay, we're now moving on to a certificate of appropriateness for 504
504
Jackson
Jackson.
Avenue, St. Alphonsus Church. Approval, build a detached restroom.
All right, this property is at 504 Jackson Avenue. It is in the old Ocean Springs Historic District. There is already an existing playground there.
Yeah.
What they are wanting to do is do detached restrooms, like the one across the street at the Little Children's Park.
Yeah.
They're wanting it to have the same kind of concept and style as the Little Children's Park, so it fits in that area. The siding will be done out of hardy board, and then the shingles to match the church, of course. And then we do have,
Is this going on the playground at St. Alphonsus? Is that what we're talking
yeah,
about?
it's more by the Washington
Yeah.
So I guess on the Washington Street side.
Street side.
Right. I was directly across from Little
My
Children's
kids were there. My kids went there, so I know exactly where this is.
I do have paint samples that they provided. I tried to make copies for you guys. They didn't turn out so well. This is what the structure, the color of the structure will actually be, and then this is the trim. It's on the back, so I just.
Let me interrupt for just a second. Is the applicant here by any chance?
He was I called him and he said he was going to be
I was
here.
just looking around.
Do we want to table this until he?
Yeah, if he
Yeah,
comes
that's
up.
good. How?
Yeah, I mean,
I'd rather table until he's here rather than continue because
I'll make a motion to table.
second.
we'll just put this off to the side if he comes in
that's
for.
fine. Okay, sorry about that. I thought he was here.
That's okay. And we can go ahead and circle back around if he comes in.
Make sure you're here next.
Okay, we're now going for the request for certification of appropriateness on 515 Rayburn. Approval to demolish or replace existing awning, repair and replace porch, screen, and framing, repair any damaged trim and siding.
All right, this one is at 515 Rayburn Avenue. It's in the old Ocean Springs Historic District. The applicant is Harvey Klein. He is asking to demolish and replace an existing awning. The only difference that the awning will, like, look-wise is there is a wrought iron, I'm sorry. A wrought iron frame, like a post, and it's gonna be a wood one versus the wrought iron. And he's going to repair and replace the porch screens. And the porch right now is going horizontal, where he wants it to be vertical in the new build. And also too, these are the colors that he will be using. Like I said, I tried to do pictures for you guys and they just didn't turn out very well.
So he just wants to square that off, in other words, instead of the diagonal.
I'm sorry.
Oh, you mean for the railing?
No, for the, I guess, the,
If you can, if you come over here to the.
yes.
So
Maybe.
yeah, so it's green to me. This on? Yeah, okay, so so for the first thing is the awning in the back. If you look at the pictures, it's got water damage, it's got carpenter bead,
Yeah.
paving, all that stuff. I did talk to the contractor about trying to we like the wrought iron, because there isn't a lot of that left around, but we like the wrought iron support. It's just, it's rotted around the base of it.
Right.
And I don't know, I am gonna try to work with him to see if he can somehow fortify the base of it and still use it.
Salvage it a little bit.
Because we actually, my wife sanded it down, repainted it to bring it back to life, and we'd like to keep it. We like the style of it. There's similar wrought iron around the house, like pictures and other things. So if we can't salvage it, we were just gonna put a beam, post there, that's in line with the timber frame for the construction for the awning. And it would have the same, a similar metal roof on it that's on it right now. And yeah, that's the awning. And then for the screen, there used to be a screen on the top and the bottom. It's just over time, the screen's deteriorated and needs to be replaced. And part of the issue with the screen is that what initially prompted us to replace the railing is on top of the screen. So to repair any of the screen, you have to literally rip the railing off. And so we wanted to move the railing on the inside of the screen. And then, but we have a cottage that y'all have approved and that's under construction on the property that faces the front of the house. That's gonna have that design of railing. That's also built of similar construction and style of a lot of the old Ocean Springs homes. And so that's what we'd like to
Keep it
do.
cohesive in other
Yeah, we'd like
words,
to
yeah.
keep it cohesive and match it to what was approved for the cottage. And then the screen will be put up on the outside so we can repair it.
Right. And then the color is, it's white now and you wanna make it,
Yeah, so we want to do dark on the top, and lighter on the bottom. Those colors, we picked, off of a couple of houses over on Forest Hill.
oh,
So we went around town looking for sort of earth tone, lighter, nothing bold or anything crazy, and then we just sought the two-tone because of the way the house is.
and the cottage, is it gonna be painted the same or is it gonna be
No.
white?
No, the cottage is actually gonna be a lighter, a lighter green hue that's gonna, because it sits underneath the oak tree and
Okay.
we don't want it to stand out.
Got it,
And
Yeah.
so, we have to actually come before you guys again when we pick out that color.
Right, right.
But the plan is we're looking around downtown, trying to find a house around that has something, similar to like your under your top, that tank top you have on.
Let's see.
Yeah, kind of, maybe,
Like a
but not as
citron.
bright, but something that wouldn't stand
Just
out.
blend in a little bit.
Blend into the trees. So that's where the colors came from, and then just, the house needs to be repainted because, as you can see from
Yeah.
the pictures, but so the contractor we're using, he's gonna source everything out of OS lumber. We wanna stick with original materials. We don't wanna replace it with party board, we wanna stick with, spruce is what, it is right now. And so, he's gonna do his best to stick with all of the original materials. And then, and ultimately, we are gonna do the roof, metal roof, but that will come after we, can afford it.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's our plan. Sorry, I tried to put all that down.
Yeah.
If that's clear enough.
Does anybody have any questions?
I'm just curious, what is the roof material?
On there right now?
Yeah,
metal.
it's green,
It's asphalt.
asphalt shingle, but you got it in green?
I didn't do it.
I see.
Somebody did it 20-something years ago. And
Just an odd color for a shingle.
I had a
Yes.
green roof.
And, well, no,
When I sold the house,
it needs to be replaced, but we're gonna do that after.
My house was yellow and had a green roof. It was New York.
Because we're still on the fence between corrugated and standing seam for the cottage. And so I think we're leaning towards corrugated, but whatever we end up going with for the cottage, we're going to be for the main house.
Are there any further questions?
When you look at this picture, I know this is this the front of the house or the back of the house?
For the porch?
Yeah.
It's the front, kind of. It's the front door. So it's a keyhole, so we're not on the street. So we
Okay.
don't have a front, back, or side to our property.
Right.
But it's the front of the house. So there's a porch downstairs and a big porch upstairs.
I mean, it almost, from this picture, it looks like an add-on.
Yeah.
They just added that
So
porch
their
on.
house, yeah, it was originally a one-story bungalow built in the 20s, and then the Mitchells, the Dunns that had before us in the 50s contracted the Mitchells to raise the house, and they built the cinder block first floor. And so,
As the family grew, the house grew.
yeah, like you go up in the attic, you can actually, part of the original roof is there, and with
Oh, yeah.
cedar shingles.
Just
and
talking
everything.
about that.
So it's, yeah, it's kind of, yeah, an architect was never involved, but it's kind of a joke. It's a really cool,
Yeah.
quirky,
Have another kid, just
characteristic
build
house,
another.
so.
That's how it was done.
Are there any further questions?
I don't have any.
I'd like to make a motion.
Yep.
I make a motion to approve the COA for the demolition and repairs at 515 Reagan,
I'll second.
as described in the application.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We're moving on to our last one at 110 Shearwater. And
Owen White, I'll have to recuse myself due to my relations with the applicant. Step down.
we have a request of certification of appropriateness on 110 Shearwater Drive, and it is Francis White. Approval to replace a existing 4-foot white fence with a 4-foot vinyl fence. My understanding, it is a fence that's being built for a small dog.
I didn't know if you were ready or, sorry, sorry, that's okay. This property is located at 110 Shearwater Drive. It is in the Shearwater Historical District. The owner is Frances Sue White Blessing. It is an R1 district. What she would like to propose us to do is, there is an existing 4-foot fence, just wood. It's, kind of gone down, and it is, I'm sorry, I can't find the words. It is rotting, there we go. And that,
Doing what wood does.
and she would like to propose to you guys to put up a 4-foot white vinyl fence, just for longevity and, they stay nicer and. Oh, it is on the south side of the house, and it's kind of hard to see from the actual street. We had a hard time getting a picture of it, so the one picture that we do have is not very clear, just because, again, we're
Right.
trying not to go on people's property
Sure.
and we're trying to be respectful, basically, but there is also a photo of what she proposes the fence will look like.
Is this the fence right here
Yes, if I'm not mistaken, yes.
behind the tree?
Yes.
Is white vinyl within historic guidelines?
Typically, they are, Shearwater District is kind of unique in that it's more the setting than the actual structures themselves. White vinyl picket fences are, at least in a front yard situation, they are typically not historically correct. But that is in a, again, in a situation where the fence is on the front yard, on the street, visible from passersby. Again, this situation, the fence is basically hidden by the house. And, again, I think there are, in the Shearwater District, I believe there are existing vinyl fences that have been approved in past years.
I believe in the past, one of the reasons we did so was the proximity to the water.
That's
Made
what it is.
wooden
This is-
fences
Yeah.
It's
over
durability.
your lifespans.
These, right, this area is more, being close to the water is more prone to, kind of rot damage like that.
Are there any questions?
Is the applicant here?
I can't hear anything.
Just wave.
Speak up a little bit, please.
I have not heard one word.
We were asking about the vinyl fence versus, and we said, we were told that because you're so close to the water, that a vinyl fence will last longer for y'all than a wooden fence. And because it's not on the street,
No.
it's back
You can't even
behind.
see.
It's not
You can be
visible.
in
It's not
front of
visible.
my house and not see it.
Right.
I mean, it's
Right.
in the back, The Andersons are behind me.
And it's for a dog too,
It's
correct?
for a little dog.
Yeah. That's exactly
No
what,
big deal.
yes. Are there any more questions? Do I have a motion?
I recommend we approve of the COA to replace the existing 4-foot fence with a new 4-foot white vinyl fence for 110 Shearwater Drive.
I second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, is there any more that we have? That's it? Okay, so at this point, I'm sorry? Oh, yes, we're gonna go ahead and table. I'm gonna make a motion to table, the certification of appropriateness on 504 Jackson Avenue for a detached restroom. Okay, is there anything else? Okay, so at this point, I do have a gentleman, Joe Jewell, who has contacted me and asked if he could come and speak with us. I have decided to waive the 5-minute limit and let him come up and propose what he wants to talk to us about. So the floor is yours.
Thank you, and I appreciate you all taking the time to hear me. Before I get started, Mr. White.
Yes.
I'd like to thank you for your consideration, for your position, for the citizens of this city. You accused yourself. I think a lot of our aldermen and our elected officials feel like when they've accused themselves, they've done something wrong. And I've often called them out and said a specific vote that they take, they should recuse themselves. And they have never done that, even though there was a clear conflict. And you not only recused yourself, you took yourself out of position so that you clearly made that point made, that there was some conflict. I don't know what it was, but that sets an example for all of the city as a way to conduct yourself when you're an elected official or when you are on these boards, and I appreciate that.
Thank you.
I just want to thank you for that. So, that being said, my name is Joe Jewell. I'm a long-term resident of this city, and I live in Ward 3. And the reason I've come tonight to speak to y'all is to try to preserve one of our historic structures that y'all spoke so eloquently about preserving. And it's the Youth Ryan Center, or otherwise known as the Armory. All us old-time people still call it the Armory. And so, as you know, it's part of a master plan that the city has proposed, which has practically screeched to a halt. And I know the city at one point had time to bulldoze and take the building down. And that building is one of the older structures in our city. And I think it's worth the merit that y'all hear my proposal and consider taking actions to preserve that building. And I have a real short presentation. There's not a lot of information available on the building for all its historical significance. It's not. So first of all, it's at 726 Pine Drive. There's some misinformation. There's several addresses listed for it on the city's official site, but its legal official is 726 Pine Drive. It was part of the funding for it was federal funds that came through appropriation for the U.S. Congress. There was about $250,000 in 1958 that was set up to provide 7 to 8 armories across the state of Mississippi. And the portion that Ocean Springs received for the Army was $67,000, and the state of Mississippi matched that with $13,000 for it. So the total cost of the building, brand new, was $80,000. And like I said, it was appropriated in 1958 by the U.S. Congress. Construction began in late 1959 and was completed in 1960. The building originally housed the 135th Transportation Company of the U.S. Army, although it was used as a reserve building almost simultaneously at the time. And just as a footnote, the commander of the 135th Transportation Company was Captain Tommy Monroe. Miss Monroe's husband's
My father-in-law.
father, your father-in-law, absolutely. So the city renamed the building the Youth Ryan Center in 2016 after the Ryan brothers, who were both military veterans. One of them was a brigadier general, and they were also very involved in the youth outreach programs for our city. And so that's sort of the history. There's not much known. I've gone to the planning department, building department. I've tried to find out as much as I can, because part of the process is you have to have as much historical information on the building as you can. I have a lot of cursory information from long-term residents, but I don't have any factual, substantive way to back that up. But they all pretty much say the same thing. The person that I've been talking with is Mr. Thomas Dabney from Historic Preservation in and so in order to proceed with that process, there is a process to do that. Certainly y'all would have to approve. I'm not sure what y'all's governing rules are about, would the city board of aldermen have to approve it? I don't know that, but I know this is the first step. And y'all approving it is the first step. And once that step is done, it has to be a completion of a nomination form. I have that form. The information is pretty straightforward. There are a couple, I've helped fill these forms out many times in the past. So I have a little bit of experience doing that. So there's a couple hiccups with the form. There's some information that will have to be acquired before the form is submitted and we proceed with it. And then once that form is submitted, there's a process of review and determination. There's generally two outcomes. One is that it's found eligible and then the city can proceed, or two, that it's not found eligible. And then that pretty much, it stops there. Because once you go to the state archives and history and you do that and they accept it and it becomes a state preserved site, you can further it on to the national list. But if they found it ineligible, it stops. And I can speak from experience. I worked for the U.S. Corps of Engineers in Vicksburg, and I was part of the nomination project for both archaeological and historic processes. There were a handful of them that, in spite of that non-conformity from state archives and history, we passed on to the federal, and none of them were accepted. So it's very difficult once if you don't meet that threshold. And as I heard some people talk tonight, there are three criteria, and it certainly meets the first. It has to be a historic structure for at least 50 years. 64, 65 years old. So it certainly meets that first threshold. The next two are significance and integrity. I personally think, I don't know what archives and history, I can't speak for them, but I think it does meet the significance. It's one of only 8 armories. I think there are a couple that have been demolished. There are actually 2 or 3 of them that are still in existence in the state of Mississippi that are still being operated as armories that were built at the same time. So that doesn't technically work in our favor because it's not an armory, it's now the youth center. So it has to meet that. In general, the significance is, in essence, it must have historical meaning, which I think it does. As a general rule, a property must have acquired significance from historical events or development at least 50 years ago. So I think it meets certainly the 50 years. It has historical events, as y'all I know I've been around from the late 50s, 60s. That was the Cuban Missile Crisis. These buildings were built all over the South to support any military action that could have happened at that time. And then
Correct me if I'm wrong, wasn't it just refurbished recently?
It was.
Yeah.
It absolutely was. And that may work as a disadvantage.
Really?
Because sort of integrity, which is the next thing, the next step, it has to meet integrity. And y'all certainly have discussed that almost on every presentation that y'all did tonight. It has to meet certain standards of preservation. And when I talked to Thomas, he talked about the windows. And I went by and looked at that earlier today. Some of on the office side of it, you notice there's an office side that we use, there's a precinct, and then there's where the vehicles were parked, that we use it for the youth center now. So the office side of it looks like it has some of the original windows, and some of the windows up front look original to me, but some of the other windows look like replacement windows. So I don't know how that would be valued when they review it. But integrity is the degree in which the property retains its historical integrity, authenticity, and characteristic as appearance, material, and location. So So as far as material and location, it does, but materials, you know, it has been changed. There's, even if y'all been inside of it, it's got a little set of bleachers, small set of bleachers on one side, so that significantly changed the integrity on the inside. So I'm not sure how that would be perceived, but I think we should at least try. The city of Ocean Springs should at least try. There's probably a couple more buildings that we probably need to look at, but this is the one that I think is in most danger right now. And the city has put a lot of effort into that building and put a lot of investment into it, not only money and time-wise, but for the community. It serves
My grandson plays basketball there all the time.
For the youth, the children,
Yeah,
our
yeah.
youth, it's a voting precinct for both 3 and 4 now.
I did when I
And
was
you
little, played
you can
basketball
rent the
there.
building out.
Yeah, and
It's
correct me if
about-
I'm wrong, what happens on the inside is really not our world at all. It's
Well, it-
perception on the outside.
Oh, for us, yes, but I
Yeah.
mean, when they review it, there's a part of the request packet includes pictures on the inside and outside.
So that's different from what we're used to,
Yes.
because we're more of the exterior visual.
You're dealing with private residences. And so once someone buys private, they have to meet certain historical standards in those districts and
Mhm.
with us archives and history. But as far as integrity wise on the inside, they really have, unless it's certain other buildings that have to be, but for the most part, like structurally, the one gentleman had termite for it. He could technically gut that building and put in a mid-century modern interior if he wanted.
Yeah, whatever he wants on the inside, just as long as it works on the outside.
But this particular building would take a review from both the inside and outside. It requires that.
Gotcha.
So that's really it. If you have any questions, I'll be glad to try and answer you. There's a lack of, a lot of information available, and some of that will probably never be available. But if you vote to proceed, I certainly will start working towards providing that information.
Well, I may be out of the loop. I don't, what is the city wanting to do with the building?
So if you, I can address that. So that there's a master plan now from the site from the corner of Pine Street,
Okay.
where the Olika property was,
Yeah.
all the way back to the very back end of the property where the water tower is.
Okay.
And so on the very front of it is proposed that a gentleman's trying to buy the house and put a hotel up there.
All right.
And then in the center part of it, which is where the armory is and the
Right.
ballpark, is
Mhm.
proposed the parking lot. So we would bulldoze this historic building for a parking
For a
lot.
parking lot.
Right.
Okay.
And then right adjacent to the east of it and to the south of it is a youth
Right.
ballpark and things like that. And then in the very back part of the property where the water tower is a walking trail and a park, like a park area. So though, you know, I like the overall project. I mean, I just don't want to lose the armory. I would have I'd have objections to developing the Leica property, but the rest of the proposal, you know, that's it provides youth facilities, a walking trail for people like me that need to get out and exercise. So those are all really good ideas and that would benefit our city. But I think it would be a mistake to develop the Pine Street without further mitigation. And I think it would be a mistake to lose the Armory, which is a pretty significant building for our city considering all of the loss.
Right.
For a lot of different reasons, hurricanes and, development.
Oh, and it's a shame they can't find a way to cohesively work them together, do your new stuff, but, I mean,
I
they
think
do
our
it
new
everywhere else in the
I
country.
think our new administration is definitely going to work towards that.
Yeah.
And excuse my lack of knowledge, but does it not also qualify as a emergency storm shelter as well?
It would,
Okay,
absolutely.
all right,
Yeah. It's such a substantially built structure.
Certainly
it
need.
definitely would.
Okay.
I would propose that we did move forward. I think we need to.
I agree. I mean, the building's been there my whole life.
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
I grew up around it, so.
I have a personal vested interest, so I don't know if I can make the motion, so.
Yeah, I was going to say, my husband went there, and now my grandson, I mean, the whole family's been, so for me, I mean, that's history.
Well, that's a good thing. I think everybody has a personal investment in
Yes.
this building. I mean, everyone's been there. It plays an historic, cultural role for our city. I would hate to lose it. I'd like to see.
Same. I would too.
It may not work out the way we want it to work out, but we should at least, I think we should at least try.
I think we need to do
Well, there was an old song,
I think the motion be.
right? You know the one I'm thinking about? A paradise to put up a parking lot. I don't get
Is
that.
there a proposal to demolish the building?
There
Yeah,
was.
there was.
It's not on the board now, but it
It's not.
certainly was. a
Yeah, there was a proposal for it to be.
So there was one, there's not one now.
No, it's all in.
And so, correct me if I'm wrong, he's here today to make the armory historical so that it can't be proposed again, for it to ever be torn down. True?
That's exactly the purpose of come here today, is to try and, so this administration had some good ideas. You know, there were good ideas, but some of the areas in there that I liked and some that I didn't. But if this building becomes a historic structure, it puts certain protections on it that would be very difficult for new administrations to come in and take the building down and substantially change it from what it is. So
And
that's-
I agree
that's
with
all
that.
Or if anything, make it very, very difficult.
Right.
Right.
And we don't-
Impossible,
Sure.
but it would make it very.
And we don't know that it will be made historical, but we're saying we want to go forth and try to make it.
Yes.
Yeah, because it's not up to us to deem something.
But we need to move forward with that, so.
And I would recommend that you would move forward to do that.
And I would second that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay.
And I want to thank y'all. So moving forward, this is what'll happen. You know, I'll start accumulating all the information I can. I'll fill out the packet. I'll get all that in preparation. And once that's completed, I'll come back before y'all and require permission from y'all to submit the packet. So it'll give y'all, you know, it's not a closed process. You're
right.
directing me what y'all need to do.
And thank you for bringing it to our attention, because some of us knew nothing about it, so.
And if you
I
already
missed it.
mentioned it and I missed it, I apologize. Have you reached out to MDHS as well in Jackson?
I have.
Okay,
Absolutely,
all right.
yes. And then I'm also talking with our new elected administration, who are very supportive of this effort.
Okay, because this sounds like it might be right up their alley as well.
Well, you have the support of the Historical Preservation Commission, so if you need anything, please don't hesitate to contact us and we'll help you in any way we can.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. I'm sure our community is going to appreciate it too.
Thank you so much for presenting,
Thank you
Joe. I
for coming
appreciate
in.
it.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anything else, any other information?
I
Okay.
think we could.
We'll have a meeting in June.
Yeah.
We'll be on the usual date, but we do have some items on that agenda.
Wonderful.
Okay.
I make a motion for us to adjourn.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
We're out of here.
I did not get, so you know, I did not get a package or anything. I called an hour ago.
No, I'm so sorry. I don't.
We definitely on for time because I couldn't